Hey everyone, welcome back to Corporate Decoder, the place where we help you decode the secrets hidden within those massive corporate filings. Today, we're diving deep into Hanesbrands, and let me tell you, it is not just about undies anymore. This filing tells a story of a big change, a takeover that is shaking things up. So, what is the big news? Hanesbrands is no longer independent. It has been acquired by Gildan Activewear Inc. Think of it like a popular brand suddenly becoming part of a much larger family. This report of Form 8K tells us all about the nitty-gritty of this deal. The really important date here is the 1st of December 2025. That is when this whole acquisition, these transactions as they call them, officially went down. It was a multi-step party, a merger where Hanesbrands, after a few name changes and internal moves, ended up as a wholly owned subsidiary of Gildan. This means Gildan is now the boss, owning 100% of what used to be Hanesbrands. The mastermind behind this whole deal was the merger agreement signed way back on the 13th of August 2025. It laid out all the steps, a bit like a recipe for how to combine two big companies. They even renamed Hanesbrands to Hanesbrands LLC, making it official that it is now operating under a new structure within the Gildan empire. Now, when a company gets taken over, a lot of its old financial arrangements get tossed out. That is exactly what happened here with their credit agreement. Remember that big credit facility they had, including a $750 million revolving loan, a $400 million term loan A, and a massive $1.1 billion term loan B. All of that good stuff was paid off, and those commitments were terminated on the closing date. They didn't have to pay any crazy penalties for ending it early, which is good news. This section is really the heart of the filing, detailing how the deal was actually done. Each share of Hanesbrands' common stock that was out there, except for the ones owned by the companies involved in the deal, got turned into a mix of Gildan's common shares and some cold, hard cash. Specifically, for every share of Hanesbrands, owners got about 0.102 of a Gildan share and 80 cents in cash. This package of shares and cash is what they're calling the merger consideration. It's how shareholders of Hanesbrands were compensated for giving up their ownership. Now, this wasn't just for the stockholders. If you had options to buy Hanesbrands stock or restricted stock units or performance stock units, basically any kind of stock award those got converted to, your Hanesbrands options became options to buy Gildan shares, and your RSUs and PSUs became Gildan Arshes. The number of shares you held in these awards was adjusted based on something called the Equity Award Exchange Ratio. This ratio basically made sure that the value of these awards stayed roughly proportional after the merger. They even mentioned that performance conditions on PSU awards would no longer apply after the conversion, which is a pretty significant change for those folks. With Hanesbrands now fully owned by Gildan, it no longer needs to be listed independently on the stock market. So they officially told the New York Stock Exchange they're delisting. Trading of Hanesbrands common stock was suspended, and they've initiated the process to remove it entirely from the exchange. This also means Hanesbrands will stop filing those big detailed reports like the 10K and 10Q, with the SEC simplifying things for Gildan. Because of the merger, if you were a shareholder of Hanesbrands, your rights as a Hanesbrands stockholder basically ended when the merger closed. Your only remaining right was to receive that merger consideration, the Gildan shares and cash we talked about. You are no longer a part of Hanesbrands in the old way. You are now tied to Gildan. This section just reconfirms what we already know. A massive change in control happened. Hanesbrands is now completely under the wing of Gildan. Gildan funded this whole operation with a mix of new loans, about $1.1 billion in a new term loan facility, and also from money they raised earlier in the year through selling $1.2 billion in senior unsecured notes. They also had cash on hand. Importantly, Gildan didn't need Hanesbrands' money to make this deal happen. As expected with any takeover, there were some leadership changes. All the directors of Hanesbrands stepped down as part of the deal. Not only that, but all the officers of Hanesbrands also stopped serving in their roles. This is pretty standard when one company swallows another whole. It streamlines the management structure under the new owner. This part is about the legal paperwork that changed. When Hanesbrands converted into a limited liability company, they filed these articles of conversion with the state of Maryland. This is essentially the legal document that says, we are no longer Hanesbrands Inc. In the old way, we are now Hanesbrands LLC. Along with that, they adopted a new limited liability company agreement, which is like the operating manual for this new LLC. There is one other interesting tidbit here. Hanesbrands decided to redeem all of its outstanding 9.000% senior notes due in 2031. That is about $600 million worth of debt. They're going to pay these back on the 11th of December, 2025. This usually happens when a company believes it can either get better interest rates elsewhere or when it wants to clean up its debt structure as part of a larger transaction like this acquisition. And finally, as with all SEC filings, you've got the standard exhibit list. Most of these are legal documents like the merger agreement itself, the articles of conversion, and the new LLC agreement. The really important stuff, the financial details, and the story of the deal has been summarized in the items we've discussed. So, what is my take on all this? Gildan's acquisition of Hanesbrands is a pretty bold move to create a larger, more dominant player in the apparel industry. For Hanesbrands shareholders, the immediate outcome is clear. They got cash in stock, receiving a payout for their shares. For Hanesbrands employees, the future is tied to Gildan's strategy, and leadership changes are a definite signal of that. The big risk here, as with any merger, is integration. Can Gildan effectively combine the operations, cultures, and brands of both companies? If they can, they stand to gain significant market share and cost synergies. If they struggle, the promised benefits of the merger might not materialize. The redemption of those senior notes suggests a proactive approach to managing debt, which is always a positive sign, especially when taking on new obligations through an acquisition. In essence, this filing marks the end of an era for Hanesbrands as an independent entity and the beginning of a new chapter under Gildan's ownership. It is a story about consolidation in the retail space and how companies are strategizing to stay competitive. Alright, that is our breakdown of Hanesbrands' latest filing. What is your take on these numbers and what they signal for the company's future? Drop your thoughts in the comments if this analysis was valuable. Hitting that like button really helps, and subscribe for more deep dives. Don't forget to check out the Discord in the description. Thanks for watching. See you next time.